Hey guys, welcome back to the Auto Obsessive Garage. Chadwick with you again for another installment of the Auto Experience series. Today we're in a very special car to me. It's my 1992 Ford Escort GT. The correct name would be 1992 Ford Escort Cayman GT. It has a package called the Cayman Package. And what this does is spruce up the GT to an insane level. No, really, it's just visual stuff, guys. It's not that crazy. But it's cool, and it's rare, and it's a factory option. So we love that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that really gets me excited about cars. What does the Cayman Package include? Well, I think before we get into those kind of nitty-gritty details, let's look at what the GT is versus a regular Escort of the early 90s era. So what do you get with the GT? Well, you get a smaller displacement engine. You heard that right, smaller displacement. This car has a 1.8 liter engine, whereas the regular Escort makes do with a 1.9. What? How is that an upgrade? The regular car's engine has a 1.9, putting out about 108 horsepower, which is respectable for the early 90s. What do we get in this bad boy? Hold on, guys. We have a 1.8 liter sourced from Mazda. That's right, the ever-reliable BP engine. The engine came to fame with the 1994 and newer Miatas. 127 horsepower comes from this 1.8 liter dual overhead cam engine. That's awesome. 127 horsepower in 1992 was pretty respectable. And I do think that's a hot hatch number. That's a lot of power coming from a little engine and a little car. So that's great stuff there. The GT also gets this really cool body cladding, the giant wing, the cool like side skirts, and everything's really just over accentuated to make it look more sporty. There are so many angles going on with this car. I freaking love it. You also get 4-wheel disc brakes. How about that? That's something else. So the stopping power is decently mediocre, better than it would be with drums. You also get a really good suspension setup. For its time, this thing had quite an advanced suspension setup, or a budget-built car. So that's pretty nice. The car handles really well. This particular model has a 5-speed manual, also sourced from Mazda. So that's really awesome. Now let's get into this Cayman Package. I actually have the brochures that came with the vehicle, which are kind of neat and explain it. So I'll put those screen grabs right here. For those of us who don't like to read, how about you just walk us through it? Okay, good deal. So the Cayman Package, pretty much a visual upgrade package. Special paint on the outside, a Cayman metallic paint job. There was a green variant and there was more of a teal bluish variant. This one's more of the teal bluish. I'm sure I could look up the exact name, but you got the idea. What they did also with that special paint is carried inside the car. So with the Cayman Package, you actually get this colored piping that goes on the seats and the door sills that matches the exterior color. That is friggin' awesome. And nothing's more awesome and more 90s than teal. So we got a good dose of that. The Cayman Package also comes with a leather wrap steering wheel. And it's not just cheap leather that's gonna peel off and fall away. We're at 97,000 miles and this leather still feels solid, still feels great. So that's a good upgrade. This car's in fantastic shape. What makes it even more of a unicorn is that this is a one-owner car. One lady owned it, bought it brand new in 91. It's a 92 model year, 91 and a half, however you want to say it. And she drove this car for 26 years. That's crazy. To keep a car that long, you know you have to be on top of your maintenance. And she definitely was. The car's in really good shape. Completely bone stock. Stock suspension, stock engine, stock everything. It even has the stock cassette player from the factory, so really happy with that. You know, honestly, as far as rare cars go, this one's a unicorn. I'm gonna say it. This one, it's hard enough to find a Ford Escort for sale in the country right now, especially a clean title, not to mention finding one that has, you know, one owner. That's not gonna happen. And a manual transmission and the Cayman factory package. It's just not gonna happen. I highly doubt there's another one for sale in the entire country right now. So it definitely has unicorn status, and it looks great too. The body's in really good shape. Interior is, I say it all the time, this interior is a time capsule. It's, you know, anyone that sticks their head in the car is just like amazed that this car is from 1992. Everything's held up really well, and it was really well taken care of in here. So no modifications to the car. I know that's a lot of fun stuff to go over with these cars I tend to drive, but it's kind of fun in this case that it's completely bone stock, and for that, it's even cooler, I think. I think the fact this car has remained completely stock. They are pretty easy to modify. They use a lot of the Miata modification parts, and folks out there like to turbocharge them, which sounds amazing. And props to them for doing that. I love watching those builds. But you know, there's something to say about keeping this thing stock and just enjoying it as it is. I think it's plenty peppy. I think this 1.8 liter gets up and moves, and this is a very healthy example. So we're gonna put it through the regular test just like we always do. We're gonna do our objective test, shake it down. I think this thing's gonna be pretty quick. We're also going to do our subjective test, take it up in some fun roads and see how she handles, see what kind of communication the car gives to the driver. And then, you know, at the end of the day, what we're doing with this car is determining whether or not this car would have been considered a hot hatch in the early 90s. You know, I'd be willing to bet that, yeah, this is considered a hot hatch. At the end of the day, we're going to come to the decision whether or not the 1992 Escort GT is hot enough to be considered a hot hatch. On to the tests. Let's get this Escort GT up on the scales and see how much this early 90s hatchback weighs. At 2,429 pounds, the Escort GT is not exactly a featherweight, still a pretty light car in early 90s context. With nearly 63% of its weight towards the front, the Escort GT really illustrates the weight imbalance of a front-engine, front-wheel drive vehicle. Behind the wheel of the Escort GT, sporty handling is only applicable in early 90s context. It can be driven hard, but the driver will be met with well-pronounced body roll and not a lot of security providing grip from the 195 width tires. On a positive note, when really pushed, I was able to get the rear end to rotate, which reminded me of the Fiesta ST's natural handling characteristics. So that was pleasant. Steering overall in the Escort GT is fairly tight, but it is somewhat vague just off center. So when you turn in really hard, it feels like the car's not going to go, and then it finally decides to go, so it can sometimes catch you off guard. The engine's punchy nature made easy work of pulling out of corners. The somewhat aggressive gearing and commendable Mazda source transmission can be wrangled to keep you in the sweet mid-range power band. The brakes, even though new pads, rotors, and fluid were added for this video, still came across as underwhelming overall. A more than fair amount of travel leading to a less than aggressive bite can provide tense moments when going into a corner a little too hot. Interior-wise, the Escort GT is a pleasant place to dwell. This example's museum-worthy original interior has held up great against the test of time. All controls are intuitively laid out. The touch points are actually quite good, especially the Cayman-specific leather-wrapped steering wheel. The seats, though supportive, are ideal for someone about a foot shorter than me. The seating position is high, but common for other 90s Econobox platforms. Exterior styling of the 1992 Ford Escort GT is period sporty on point. To echo what was stated in this video's intro, the Escort GT's over-exaggerated body add-ons are highly successful in making the car's performance intentions known. The color-matched wheels, tacked-on body cladding, amazingly designed wing, slotted grille, and stunning teal color all scream 90s sporty car, and it's hard not to enjoy these attributes. Time for our conclusion. Let's see if the Escort GT does indeed check all the hot hatch required boxes. Is the Escort GT a hotted up version of the common Ford Escort? You bet it is. Does it project its performance-minded intentions through more aggressive styling? Oh boy, does it ever. Does the Escort GT offer a performance boost over the base model Escort? Very much so, in power, handling, and braking. Is the Escort GT a hatchback? Why yes, and a cavernous one at that. According to this nearly official assessment, the Escort GT strongly identifies as a hot hatchback. When the results of the objective and subjective tests are brought into the equation, the Escort GT clearly distinguishes itself as being hot enough to be considered a hot hatch.